Well, they do say it's the hope that kills you at the end of the day. Welcome back to Matchday Report, people, where Preston North End took on Sheffield United at the weekend, and the Blades absolutely slashed our playoff hopes into the ground, and they are now rotting with every other corpse in the ground. As you can tell, poor result from Preston, and it means we are staying down. However, it doesn't mean we're going down like another team. Like two teams, actually. But yeah, no, crazy. Anyways, let's have a look at the stats, and we'll run through our emotions, shall we? Alright then, so the first half was a bit anticlimactic as not a lot happens, despite both sides showing some genuine qualities, with North End entering half-time a goal down from yet another set piece. The second half presents a glimmer of hope as Delap pulls one back in opposite circumstances to his Blackburn heroics, but was short-lived as the Blades show their top-level quality and slot 3 more past us in easy fashions to end our season early. So as you can tell, 18 shots, 10 on target, very good ratio. You're going to need that going into the Prem. We had 10-4, which is nowhere near the levels. We did have a lot of possession in the first half. We definitely looked to be playing the possessive game, if anything. And obviously that eventually dropped as the players began to sort of like just drop their heads and all that good stuff. But by no means it wasn't a terrible match. We didn't look awful at all at many points during the game, but it is what it is. So let's take a look at the play rating, shall we? Right, Benny Woodman a 6. Let down by his defence for the goals. Made a series of important saves over the piece, denying McAtee, Doyle and Nadette. I can't say this guy's name, I'm sorry, I'm so bad with names. Anyways, Jordan Story is 6. Midway half time with Lowe changing formation for the second half, which he's done twice now. A hit and miss 45 minutes at the back. Bauer a 5, putting a decent first half, showing winning tackles and interceptions, but Sheffield United's pace and power in the second half caused him loads of problems. Hughes a 5, an off day for Hughes, some vulnerable defending and beating in the air. Potts a 6, provided the assist for Delap and couldn't fault his endeavour up and down the right, but tracked back and put some blocks in, wasteful moments at the other end. Onoma a 6, found himself in pockets of space throughout the first half, but he and the midfield just couldn't get it going. Started off encouraging Pini moves, but they kept petering out. I would say Onoma was my personal favourite player of the game, of ours anyway. I thought he just put in a good shift all around. Really, he shows his quality. I definitely would sign him back on, considering he's whatever we've signed him as a contract or the half-year deal, half-season deal, whatever it is. There's a good player behind all the fucking shite that we've had to get through to get him to this stage. So I'd keep him on personally. Ledson a 4. I think that is downright wrong, personally. Picked out Potts in the build-up to the goal, but a tough afternoon aside from that. Passing was hot and cold. Never got grips with the game out of possession. Really? I was having this same debate on Twitter, follow me if you don't, by the way. Ledson is a player that gets a lot of slack from a lot of people because he's very on and off when the game is played, which is understandable. Not everyone's perfect, but with Ledson, it's the passes that he plays. He's not entirely an accurate passer. Sometimes it gets to his head a bit, and when it comes to attacking, he'll just smack it instead of thinking about what he's doing. He's over passionate sometimes, but in terms of his defensive efforts yesterday, I thought he put in some very good blocks. Don't get me wrong, his passing and his attacking sort of play was horrendous. But when it came to blocking the shots when it mattered, he really did his job. He's very defensively sound, and that's why he's a central defensive midfielder, not an attacking midfielder, which is what people need to understand. So I think Ledson did his job well, but in terms of the things that he's doing extra to give the team a boost, it definitely needs work. And it makes you question why McCann wasn't there to begin with, because obviously McCann will help us get that midfield flowing and then push forward the attack a little bit more. All Ledson can do is block, so yeah, it's a strange choice, but I don't think he was a 4 by any means. Johnson a 5, similar to Onoma. He got into encouraging positions over the course of the game but couldn't provide the killer moment. Frustrating day. Fernandez a 5, tried to get back at the Blades with his dribbling, had a little joy over the piece. The effort to get stuck in the attack was always there, but his defensive efforts were fucking appalling, and this is why Alvaro does need a second season out on loan. As good as he's running and dribbling with the ball and his attacking is, his finishing is not all there just yet. He's got no weak foot. And when he's in positions to shoot, he just doesn't. He hesitates a bit too much, and his defending is piss poor. He really needs to work on the defence, because tracking back he's not great at, and putting the blocks in he's not great at either, so that needs work. Cannon a 5, quiet game up top, had a chance at the start of the second half, but it was smothered, didn't look after the ball or use it well enough. Parrot 5 looked annoyed with the decision making from teammates in the first half, with him making runs but not receiving the ball. Had a couple of openings over the game but couldn't find the finish as per usual, and got unlucky with one finish, trying to chip it over. I think he definitely could have done better there. Subs Dilapa 7 provided some desperately needed urgency after being introduced at the break. You can tell he had a confidence boost yesterday. Was in the right place at the right time for his goal. Had a huge penalty shout turned down, which was definitely a penalty, by the way. One a few to come out with credit, and he held the ball really well many times as well. He definitely has that strength to him, but in terms of his first touch, retaining the ball, it's not fantastic. When it comes to winning the ball back and trying to keep hold of it when it matters in wide areas to try and feed back in, he can do that decently, but he doesn't feel like a full package. McCann 5-6 minutes after being introduced, the game was done. Wasn't really any fault of his own. Woodburner 5 introduced late, but the result was in the bag. He got 1 or 2 touches, and Lewis Lee made his championship debut. A great moment from despite the circumstances. And that's about it, really. I can't really fault that. Now, Ryan Lowe's reaction. This is something that caught me seriously off guard when I saw this yesterday, and I did read this yesterday instead of waiting for today. And it, like I said, it made me question a lot of what Ryan's been saying throughout the course of the season, and I'll explain that in just a moment. So on the performance and the loss, and by the way, this is taken from the BBC Radio Lancashire interview, not the post-match one for P&E FC's page and I follow and stuff. If people get confused by that. My emotions are high at the moment, so I'll be careful what I say, but obviously disappointed. Sorry, we wanted to take it to the final day to give ourselves a chance. First half, I thought we were easy. Ozine didn't go for it. We got into some decent positions at the top end of the pitch, but it fizzled out. Second half, we made a change because we felt we needed to do something, and there was a goal for us, and which we thought there would be, and then we were on top. We can't just fold the way we did. We cannot get done by the counter-attacks like we did. We have to defend from behind the ball. And look, when you give a quality team like Sheffield chances like that, they punish you. That is why they are the second best team in the championship. There is opening up and opening up too much. They know the rules. I'm disappointed with how the goals have gone in and how we are defending from front to back. When you defend like that, it's tough not to concede goals, but we had an opportunity today, I felt, to get a result. We know they're a good team, but we had an opportunity to keep pushing on, and we have sort of folded in terms of conceding the sloppy goals. The last 2 goals were embarrassing. I wanted more. There are players who are not ours and players who might not be ours at the end of the season and move on. I'm not having a go at the players because they can't do it, because they've shown they can do it. I was just frustrated with them, so I was moaning and shouting at them, and I said the same things at half time. I can see it and everyone else can see it. You have got to give a bit more to win a game of football. It's Saturday, you've got to fucking die to get 3 points is basically what he's saying. We didn't do enough to win a game of football. You've got to have belief coming to these sorts of places. We went to Norwich and nobody gave us a fighting chance. We won't come in next season obviously, but we've got to go to these big clubs and believe that we can win, not just get beaten all over. On the mentality and post-match message, as I say, emotions are high, but I've just said to the group in there, and this is what's sparking all the debate at the minute, I've just said to the group in there that if they don't want to follow suit, then move on. I am not hanging around to take a bang average team through the division. I need a team of men and good quality players, a team who are going to ask are going to do what I've asked them, basically. I think it's a typo, which they have done in large parts of the season. But when you fold the way we did there, it's disappointing, and I've addressed it to the players, so they'll have to dust themselves down, be in this week and go again. Because if they don't perform this week in training and show me an attitude, they won't play. It's as simple as that. I have learned loads since he probably earned loads as well, since I've been here, and I will look back at the game to see where I can take it if I can. So that's very interesting, and we're going to go back to that in a moment. On his ambition, at the end of the day, I don't want to just be a bang average mediocre championship manager. I want to progress and get to the lengths of where Sheffield United are going. But I want players who are going to follow suit, and I think there have been a few players who have just died down of late, which is not acceptable. My staff and everyone associated want to do it. I'm not pinpointing anyone, but there have been times this season where I will reflect, look back, and we could have gotten results. Whether it's the lack of mentality, quality, I don't know, but I'll have to have a look. The fact is, I don't want to be a mid-table team. I've come to P&E to try and get them out of the division. I'm disappointed for the fans who have taken it to we haven't taken it to the last game of the season. We've had criticism this season, rightly and wrongly, players and staff and me. But these are moments you've got to take and try and get to the next stage. And we haven't done that today. It's not reactionary to losing to Sheffield United. I feel we would have been in most games. That's right, I feel we've been in most games. I don't think many teams have really ripped us open. We've we fell probably 4 points short of having a real good goal of getting into the playoffs. Whether they are points earlier in the season or games just gone now, there are a disappointment in there, of course, because the goals we conceded are rubbish and we shouldn't be conceding those goals. And obviously that is referring back to the start of the season when, you know, we're just doing 0-0. You know, we could have got more out of that early Watford game and the early Rotherham game. You know, all those games where we drew 0-0, etc. We definitely could have had more out of those games. And if we did get more out of those games, it's safe to say we would be in with a really good shout of the playoffs rather than trying to scrape it down to the barrel like we have done. So I see where he's coming from, and you can see why you're pissed off about it, because the fans are as well. You know, I'm not pissed off about it. I expected this to happen, but at the same time, when you look back at it in retrospect and you see how we play now compared to how we was at the start of the season, it makes you beg the question, what was we doing differently then to what we're doing differently now that we can't sort of, you know, make a balance between? Because at the start of the season we was extremely defensive and defensively sound, and that's why we was not conceding goals. But then the more we try to open our attacking up by involving the defence, we start conceding the goals, because the midfield can't do anything with that ball to aid the strikers. We need our backs, you know, to help out with, you know, getting the ball forward, which is something that a lot of football managers do and a lot of football teams do, don't get me wrong. But with the type of quality in this team, it's not exactly like it's, you know, the best thing for us to be doing. When you look at the start of the season and we're not conceding goals at all, and we're, you know, making some decent plays from the back to the middle, it's just that final third that needs the work. But when you're trying to involve the back 3 or 4 to aid the front 2 or 1 or however many, that's when it gets dangerous, because we're playing far too high up the pitch like we did yesterday and against Swansea and against Blackburn. We were playing far too high up at times, which as soon as they get a counter-attack, if they've got a pacey forward like a lot of Championship teams do, that's it. You know, they're gone. We've absolutely lost them. And then it's a case of a one-on-one, and if Woodman can step in, which 9 times out of 10, he can't. He doesn't really do well in those kind of situations. Woodman's one of those keepers, don't get me wrong, he's sensational on the day, but as soon as the back line starts to let him down, he starts to let himself down. And that's something that needs addressing. But yeah, I can see exactly where he means the improvement is needed here, because of, you know, like considering these goals, you know, with Swansea as well, it's very, very disappointing. But regardless, we'll move on. On the task at hand, it's going to be a big job in the summer. There are lads out of contract and under contract. You cannot just give someone a mentality that they have got to really want it. We can try and drum it into them, but it's personal pride. We've got to find that. Of course, it can be done without big money, but either way, you've got to recruit right. Of course, an example of not wanting the big money is Alan Brown. First club, and he wants it to be his last club, as he stated in the season card promo video, which I thought was incredibly sentimental and touching. We have got a great relationship, me and Peter Ridsdale. He wants to follow my suit, and we've got to put a plan and structure in place of what it looks like. I don't want mediocre, I want better. So that's basically Ryan Lowe saying, Craig Hemmings, please give me a cash injection so I can buy good players. That's essentially what he's saying. He's like, listen, I want to sign Cannon, I want to sign Alvaro, well maybe. I want to get rid of these other fucking useless twats, and we need a refresh, we need a factory reset. That's what he's trying to say. And of course, you've squandered your chance at the playoffs, and you're a young manager progressing through his career, and you've had a chance to. You've taken 2 teams to straight promotion twice in a row, and you come to Preston North End and you're expecting to do the same. You know, sure, Ryan Law's very naive, but at the same time, you can see where he's coming from, because there's a lot of times this season when you look at, you know, A, B or C factors that boil down to players at times, and you're like, well, we can't get anywhere because of the recruitment, and we don't have money to buy top tier players. We have to make do with bang average players at times, and that's why when he's saying I don't want to take a bang average team through the division, which is what he's done this season, he's taken a bang average team through the division, and we've ended up in the top 10 challenging for playoffs. But that if the league weren't this tight, if all these other teams weren't having all these funny results because the Championship is just that weird of a league, we probably wouldn't be anywhere near the top. Let's just be honest with us. You know, teams like Coventry and Sunderland, you could argue Blackburn and Millwall, they deserve more. And the fact that we've managed to get this many points is quite absurd, considering how we've played. So it is what it is. But if we can get some genuine quality in the team, then yeah, we can definitely go places, and we can definitely be genuine contenders for the playoffs. But we need financial backing for that to happen, and that's never going to happen. But if they don't want to follow suit, then they move on. That's a very powerful statement, because obviously you've got players like Daniel Johnson who's out of contract, Ben Woodburn's out of contract, Robbie Brady's out of contract. You've got players going out of contract next season such as Bauer. We've just given Ledson and Lindsay new contracts. Obviously we gave Ched a contract, but he's injured, so we can't do anything about that. And then we have other injuries such as Emil and Cunningham as well. And and Whiteman's now injured apparently. But Whiteman's and when he was talking about players dying down, that's what Whiteman's been doing. It's a clusterfuck of negative energy in the final 3 weeks, and you just can't be having that. Alan Brown's injured. You can't be having that in the final run of games. You need to give your all in those games, and we're just dropping like flies, and players are starting to drop their heads. You can't be doing that. He's got every right to say that, because he's not wrong. He's right. Players are giving up, but yeah, I think this calls for a supporters discuss episode, or just another episode, or both. But the season comes to an end in a week's time. After on the 8th of May is the final day of the season. The final day of the season's video will come out on the 9th, provided things go correctly in terms of what I'm scheduling myself to do anyway. And after that happens, then we can go on to making supporters discuss during the pre-season talks and transfer talks and all this good stuff. We can have these discussions. That's what Twitter's that's what I mean. That's what my Twitter platform's for, to have these discussions with you guys about what Ryan Law's saying, what the players are doing, what's going on the pitch, what's going on off the pitch. That's what it's for. It's a platform to share. But yeah, that's that. We'll discuss that in greater detail in the coming weeks, so I'll be sure to keep an eye out for that. But for now, let's go on to points to make and all that good stuff. So the playoff push is now over, and it wasn't an awful display, but it shows the levels that we need to be at for the Premier League. Pros, good performance. We kept a level head at times, and the cons made very poor errors that cost us. Defensive focus arguably prevented our goal scoring like it did at the start of the season, and we've got nothing left to play for. But something I will say very quickly is the manager sets the tone. Obviously, I'm not Ryan Lowe out. I'm definitely not Lowe out, because he's done a fantastic job, let's be honest. We've not made the playoffs, but look where we are. He's done a great job. But the criticism that he receives all the time regarding his mentality and his attitude and the shit that he spouts out of his scowl's mouth, it's very, very true. Because like you said, the gaffer sets the tone. And when the manager's telling the players, you can't, or telling us and the players, you can't just have a go. Like, let's not forget, 4 or 5 match weeks ago, when we were looking at that playoff zone and we was like going back up to 6th place and hanging around that area, he's like, we can't just go for it. Why can you not just go for it? It's there for the take, just go for it. You know what I mean? I know we're at the end of the season, you're trying to save legs and whatnot, and we're all getting tired, but you have to go for it. And now that we're at the final latter stages of the season, and he's telling us to go for it, the tone shifts, and it's no wonder the players at times on the pitch look confused, like they don't know where they are or what they're supposed to be doing, because the messages are always very mixed. All season he's been praising them for their attitude, commitment and effort, but we've gone down to the final day of the season when the attitude, commitment and effort isn't massively different to what he's been doing all season, the players, and now suddenly he's telling them to either sort your shit out or fuck off. So I don't know. I think he's just a little bit pissed off that we haven't got to that penultimate place, but like I said, it's discussion for another episode. So thank you all for watching this episode of Matchday Report. Let me know your thoughts on the situation regarding Ryan Law's statement here. Like I said, we will be discussing this, and let me know as well if you think the season has actually been successful or not, because I see loads of people on Twitter now saying that the season hasn't actually been successful, but don't kid yourself, it has been successful. Just because we haven't got to the playoffs doesn't mean it hasn't been a success, because we've got more points than we had last season. We're probably going to finish in a higher position than last season, and if we don't, it'll be in and around the same position but with more points because of how the division has worked this season. So yeah, we haven't been a bad team. We haven't been a bad side this season at all. We've just been lacking that final little bit to give us that push, but we'll see what happens in the summer. Thank you all for watching once again, and I will see you all for the Sunderland video in about a week's time, when the season finally comes to an end.
Shit, I'm sad